Hello and welcome to the Premier Cheese channel. This week it's another episode of the FPL show. Before we start, remember to like and subscribe. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more stuff. Anyway, let's get on with the video.
Hello and welcome back to the FPL show. I am your host, Sam Johnson, and with me today is Ellis and Jack, the new, or Jack and Ellis we'll call them, as this is a new stint on everything. Without further ado, let's get into winner of the week for the FPL. I had to redo the graphic because initially we recorded this Monday when the Wolves game hadn't gone through. But now it has, and I'm winner of the week. I don't know what's
lucky bastard.
Wasn't that lucky? I've won by a decent amount. I won 9 places on Jack, and I've got 13 on you. So that's actually quite good. Obviously, Ellis last week was incredible, but
I was going to say the team that I chose last week got less than half of what they got. They got less. Yeah, this week.
Yeah,
words.
Good. That's good. I think there's a lot. I think a lot of people haven't done very well at FPL this week. I've only done well because I have a sticking for the Wolves and the Brighton assets. And they did actually pay off. Well, one of them did, the other didn't. But Jimenez 9, Trossard 9, Salah obviously with 5, but the captain for the 10. Tommy Yasu, Ben Rama, Rafinha, and everyone getting... I got 2 people who got nothing, which really just shows how bad of a week we had. That 2 of my players just didn't achieve anything, despite the fact they played the entire game. But yeah, I think it's a good week that I seem to do always well on the weeks that we all seem to fail at. In some way. But yeah, Jack, do you have anything to say about my team? Do you have anything to say about comparisons to your team and why you were eventually winner of the week but got turned away at the last minute?
Well, because you've got Wolves players and I don't know. I've got Townsend in my team, which he got 2 points, which is nice, but he didn't get 9 like bloody Jimenez and Trossard and Rafinha.
Should have had Godfrey in for that assist for Jimenez's goal. That was actually pretty decent through ball. But yeah, it was all up in the air until the last day because we didn't know what was going to happen, who was going to win. Which is the reason I put Jack as it, because I thought it was going to be Jack. But Wolves just ended up having a really good game, and Everton didn't actually score from any of the assets that you got, because I believe Jack has Townsend, you have Gray, and none of those actually contributed to anything during the game. Jimenez got points, and Traore actually, by not playing, helped me because Trossard then came in for me. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about this. I think we've had a really bad week comparatively, but of the bad people, I've had the best. I'm the best bad person here. But anyway, let us get back into the round scores, the big earners of the week. Right, boys. Big round scorers of the week. I don't think anyone saw Reece James really being the top earner of this week. Obviously, Chelsea defenders have been good, but everyone's been really highlighting Chilwell rather than Reece James, especially with Reece James has got sort of he's not as solidified down now. I think Alonso and Chilwell were really fighting for their place. I think Chilwell's now securing that place. But whether Reece James or Aspilicueta start there right, I think we've seen both do either or. But Reece James really creating chances as well as defending with that Chelsea system.
I saw a stat on Twitter yesterday about Reece James. I'm trying to find it now, which I can't. It was basically he's Chelsea's highest points per minute and all the highest points per minute player in the league, and he's also got the most points for his value. So he's 5.7 million at the moment. He's started about 3 or 4 games this season, but when he has, he's usually either got an assist or a goal and a clean sheet or a mixture of them. So he's done very well this season, despite not actually starting that many games. Here it is. Reece James is currently the best value player in the Premier League, returning 9.8 points per million, despite only starting 3 of his 7 appearances this season. So, yeah, he's probably a good choice to get in if he's going to start even if he doesn't start nailing down a starting place, he's going to get you points.
Yeah, Chelsea's fixtures are starting to turn towards the thing, but they're still easy at the moment. What I noticed about this list, especially, is the selected bit. only 2 players on that entire list of how many, I don't know, I think it's like 14, 15, something like that, are above 10% ownership. The rest are below. And obviously one of those is James, who's on 13%, and the other one's Ronaldo. But everyone else has got below 10%. And when you look beyond Reece James, you've got Gabriel 1.5, Lowton 1.6, 8.8 for Gallagher, Rice is 4.9. A lot of defenders there and a lot of holding midfielders, which means probably it's reflected in the selection that obviously you wouldn't pick defenders that much, or especially from those teams. A Crystal Palace defender you won't pick, a Burnley defender picks it. Up until recently, maybe an Arsenal defender you wouldn't have picked. But is there anyone there that you think is a better asset, and do you think their selected numbers are going to go up during the day, Jack? During the coming days, Jack?
Well, yeah, I reckon James is going to probably go up a bit. I reckon before this game week, James is probably below that 10%, but I reckon after his performance this week, I reckon that 13% is probably a reflection of the what do you call it, Sam? The instant reaction, the
reactionary. Everyone's reactionary.
The reactionary transfer policy that a lot of FPL players have is to bring in the guy that scored the most points this week. And I reckon that the fact that he's now in double figures for selection percentage, I reckon that's probably a bit reflective of that.
Is there anyone lower down the list you say is not going to be as big a points earner in the weeks to come, who maybe this is a one-off thing where they're not going to get as much points as this? Obviously, Rice and
Loughton.
Yeah, I would go for that as well. I think
Loughton probably.
What about Omo Bamidele?
Well, he's a Norwich player, so my assumption is no, just because I think Norwich aren't going to really do anything. I think Norwich actually looked pretty decent for a lot of that Leeds game, but they just folded. And if they're not going to win those games, I don't know where they're going to get points from. And I don't think that goal they scored was the third goal they've ever scored this season.
Yeah,
that's not a good sign, and it's not a good sign for the future. And especially when the Leeds game was something that they should have won in every other case. What else I concentrate on here is Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale with Arsenal, especially defensive security that we've seen recently, I think he will be a decent option. He's getting save points. He was the one who basically won them that game against Leicester. But yeah, other than that, is there anyone else you want to talk about, boys?
I sort of think it's a good example of what's going on with this sort of fantasy season. Obviously, with the exception of like Salah and Vardy and maybe Mane as well, the higher value players aren't really getting that many points. Like the big players you're putting your money into, they're not really getting the returns. It's a lot of the lower value players that are bringing in the bigger points in every other week at least, if not more than that. It's weird.
Is that though assets that are getting points? They're always lower assets who are getting points every 1 week or so, but they're not actually being consistent. Are there any low budget people who are consistently getting points? Because from this list here, and was looking at the most points earner, these people don't get points that often. They are not consistent enough to be FPL assets. They are just sort of they've had a good performance this match.
Absolutely. Obviously, James, not very expensive, doing well. Gabriel, 40 points overall. Conor Gallagher, 51 points overall. Maxwell Cornet, only been around for about 4 games, has got 32 points.
Weirdly one of Burnley's best attacking outlets for that left back spot. And then it's very confusing at the moment. I think when people have had badder weeks, I think maybe I did better because I necessarily don't go for. I have a lot of Wolves players, so it's always that. So I'm always not going for the players who are the thing and trying to play outside the box, which has not worked up until this point. But we'll say with that. But yeah, we'll move on to transfers in, where hopefully we'll get an idea of players who are putting into people's thinkings or coming into people's thinkings. Right, boys, moving into transfers in. As we predicted, obviously probably we just saw it. You can say we saw on the app, but I think it was very obvious that once Reece got those amount of points that he was going to be the most transferred in regardless. It's an exceptional turnaround, and obviously I think that's moved him from when we were talking about people over 10% ownership. He definitely was before these 500,000 people have been below 10%. But yeah, is there anyone here you're surprised by who you think people shouldn't be putting focus into, Jack?
Well, Tony, like, he's not in great form. He's not scored that many goals recently. It's surprised me that he's been brought in by so many people.
Well, I think it's just because they got Burnley next, but not Burnley, Norwich. But I've benched him. I think I've benched Tony this week.
they've got Norwich and Newcastle next, so those would probably be the main reason for attaining to that, as well as being a cheap striker. They also have, after that, it would be Norwich, Newcastle, Everton, Spurs and Leeds. Obviously Spurs up in the air now whether they're going to be good or not, and then Watford after that. So they do have decent fixtures coming up, especially with those most recent two, those next two. So you would, if Tony's going to score in games, it's going to be that game. I think we all put him out as he's a good striker. He should get goals in those games because they are the two arguably worst defensive teams in the league, especially with Newcastle still not having a manager as a replacement for Steve Bruce. So I see the thinking there. Hwang, I think Wolves' fixtures are still very plentiful. And there's still a lot in there. I think Ronaldo, people are changing and switching out. He's obviously scored. People think he's back, but Man United still tend to not perform. I still put their result against Spurs to be because of Spurs, not because of them. And then Ramsdale, the reactionary nature. Ramsdale's had a really good performance. Everyone's talking about him now, so he's obviously going to be transferred in. I don't want to transfer in goalies. I don't like transfers in goalies unless someone's injured. You want to stay with the same goalie for the entire week, because really goalkeepers, unless they have an amazing game where they keep a clean sheet and have like a number of assists, they're not going to get you the whole numbers that necessarily some players in outfield can. But yeah, other than that, is there anyone that you're thinking about bringing in your team, Alice?
I've already bought in Smith Rowe because I had an injury, I think, in midfield. I can't remember who it was now, but I had to take him out. And I saw Smith Rowe. I was like, he's in form. Arsenal have got some pretty decent fixtures coming up, I think. So I'm going to bring him in, which, might be a good decision, might not be. But no, it just means I've got so much money to spend now. Like, I don't know what to do with it. It's
but then, going back into your old conversation, going back to what you said before, what big asset are you going to spend that money on? Because we know the big assets aren't doing anything. Obviously, with Smith Rowe, I think their next three fixtures look mixed, but obviously against Watford and Newcastle you expect points. Liverpool's a different thing where I think they might have an awakening, but Smith Rowe 5.6 million can't really go wrong. It's just a cheap way into a team that do perform well, especially at the moment. They are in really, really good form. Jack, is there anyone you're thinking about bringing your team on this list?
Well, I think I've made my transfer this week. Who did I bring in? Was it Tom? It might have been Tomiyasu I've brought in this week. I think it was Tomiyasu for Marçal.
Fair, because Marcel's injured. I had Marcel as well. Went for a straight swap Semedo for a Wolves win-back for a Wolves win-back. I think Semedo's more secure on his starting place, especially with Aït-Nouri having done well in Marcel's absence. I don't know if Marcel's going to be able to get back in their team. I know he was preferenced at the start of the season, but Aït-Nouri's done really well, especially in attacking terms. So it's whether I don't know whether who starts when Marcel's back, but Semedo is definitely secured on for his place because I don't think Kai Hoover is going to really ruffle any feathers in that regard. But yeah, I think it's a fairly standard list. I think Foden, obviously that Man City team, he does seem secure in that Man City team, and obviously we've seen quite a bit of some Man City players we think are secure, like Torres, and then Grealish was secure, we thought, but it turned out not to be. Chelsea and Man City are just weird ones where I don't trust in their rotation policy because I don't think there's anyone secured on. But Foden, if there is one, it's probably Foden. But yeah.
It's when he gets rested for the game against Man United this week.
Yeah, exactly. Just do the opposite of what we say. Listen to our podcast and just do the opposite of what we say. But yeah, let's move on to who is injured and who is in bad form. Transfers out. Back on to transfers out. Who is taking your pick of people who are injured this week, Ellis?
I don't know. It's got to be, possibly Kovacic, Mount, David Raya, maybe.
Lukaku
still being taken out. Yeah,
Alonso, 2 weeks after being dropped, is still getting. People are still finding ways to transfer him out without taking hits. And then it's just the same people every week. Watford have obviously taken a turn, even though they did beat Everton last week. Vardy, everyone put pressure onto. Marcel, despite being a long-term injury, 52 people have put him in. Love that. That's brilliant. Pogba, 335. Raya, 157, long-term injury. This is the more interesting part. I think we should bring up transfers out just to see who the hell is transferring in these injured people. I think Marcel might make a strong recovery, despite the fact he's injury-prone and is out for at least a few weeks. But yeah, Jack, is there anyone here that you maybe put some faith into that people clearly have not?
I mean, if you scroll down a bit, you get to Son. Over 36,000 people have taken Son out, which, I mean, considering they've now got Antonio Conte, who's a very attacking-minded manager, I would be putting a lot of faith in Son right now. I reckon he's probably going to be about to hit a pretty sexy vein of form. So I'm surprised a lot of people are kind of jumping ship with him.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about our thoughts on Antonio Conte's appointment at Spurs, listen to the podcast. Premier Cheese. It should come out at the same time as this, Ellis. Just edit it this time.
Okay. Chuck us in the audio.
I've got no idea what either of you are talking about.
We do a podcast, Jack.
We're doing it next. We're recording that next. But yeah, other than that, it's the same old stuff. I might place this segment out because it's just a bit pointless at this point, but we'll find out a new segment to come in the next few weeks. But yeah, anything to say, boys? Goodbyes, salutations.
I'm gonna go to the loo, so I'm gonna have fun with that.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Happy delayed Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Don't eat too many sweets whilst your teeth are rot, and don't do drugs.
This is going to be recorded past Halloween. It's literally the 2nd November.
Yeah.
Right, bye.
Happy Guy Fawkes night. There we go.